So how do we translate this in developing a curriculum with multiple units across the school year, like our colleagues in other content areas? So as we start to create the curriculum map for the course throughout the school year, we need to think about how many units we're going to offer and what will be the focal point of those units. So I would advocate for, say, an 8-unit year for having an annual course and building curriculum for that. We've asked ourselves, where are we, where do we want to be, how are we going to get there? We've defined what needs to be mastered for this course, what needs to be proficient for this course, and now we're going to develop a fundamental program that isolates and deliberately addresses the development of the skill that is concrete, the notes and rhythms, but we're also spending a large percentage of our rehearsal time developing those concepts of balance and blend and tone and matching and listening across the ensemble. So in our first unit, perhaps even our second unit, they might be a cycle of literature. Let's say if you've got a grade 5 ensemble in your top ensemble, you're going to start with grade 2 literature. That's right. Literature that allows you to focus on the concepts at a mastery level. The problem is, we understand in elementary school that math, we need our children to learn 4 plus 4 is 8. Definitive. It's not 7.8, it's not 8.2, but 4 plus 4 is 8. There's a definitive answer. And because of the subjectivity of music, a lot of times we allow ourselves to say, well, that's a good enough tone for a 6th grader. That's a good enough tone for an 8th grader. But the reality is, we need to teach them that there's a mastery level, and that if we're playing hot cross buns with our 6th grade class versus our seniors, that on a very high level, they should sound almost the same, because 4 plus 4 is 8. When you move through the math curriculum, you get to algebra and working binomials, 4 plus 4 has to be 8 or we're toast. When you get to calculus, 4 plus 4 still has to be 8. It's more rigor, but if we don't insist that the fundamental concepts we develop are mastered at a basic elemental rigor level, then we do our students a disservice and we impede their growth in their journey as they progress forward. So that's why we want to start perhaps like a grade 2. And we may only work those pieces working on, let's say if we're going to work on a lyrical shaping of a phrase, and we want to think the water is wide. We want them to shape and energize through the long note and learn how to shape that phrase. Well, they can do that if we're not having to worry about how many notes they're going to play. We're just going to focus on that grade 2. And then perhaps the woodwind choir comes in after that. So we have a call and response. The woodwinds come in. How did they match each other? Did they shape the phrase with the same amount of intensity? Did they pace the decrescendos comparably? Those are things that we can work on if the goal in our curriculum is set up to be deliberate in that practice. And then once we've mastered those skills at that rigor level, it may only be a 2-week unit. Then we can record that music. We can put it up on the website. We can, behind a protected, page-protected something, or do a live stream of it via Facebook for parents. There's some way that we can make sure that we give a chance for them to have that small-term growth, and parents can see and they can feel proud of what they've accomplished. Perhaps it's just doing an audio recording and then doing an assessment of it in small groups, after we've done that. Then we put that literature away and we start the second unit, and we advance on a few more skills with the different literature. Then we get to the fall concert mid-October, and we're going to look at some grade 3 literature. And we're going to advance those concepts. Again, developing mastery with slightly more advanced rigor. Then we would go to the holiday concert. Well, most of us give a holiday concert, but nothing says that the whole concert has to be holiday-oriented music. I use enough, and quite honestly, I often pull back on the rigor level of the holiday music because people are attached to their Hanukkah songs or their Frosty the Snowman or whatever, and it doesn't really matter that it's technically difficult. We can still reinforce those lyricism, reinforce those concept mastery without necessarily having to dedicate a lot of instructional time to get that seasonal literature learned as we share it with our community and build our community and getting their appreciation and support for our programs. We can also add literature on those concerts that are that next stage of the progression. So then as we move into the spring semester, we can have our 5th unit. I like to have January. I like to use that as our chamber music because it's my belief that we focus on small ensemble skills within a small chamber group, and we learn to listen and match each other and the roles and responsibilities and how they fit and all that in a chamber setting. Then when we go to our large ensemble instruction in the spring, then we can enhance those skills of what we learned and expand it to the full ensemble. So then we would have that literature for our assessment. In our state, we call it large group performance evaluation. But then after that, in mid-March, then you would have another 2 units still left. One might be pops oriented. I think it's really important that students have a chance to play that literature that gratifies them, and that's a part of their musical experience on their phone and the music device that they listen to through Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever they're listening to, that we give them a chance to get gratification in playing literature that speaks to them. Now, I don't think we should do all Disney either. Nothing wrong with Disney. But we could also do some more classical, legit type literature that is pop oriented on that concert. And then the spring concert would be our 8th and final unit. And I use that as a unit to stretch and push forward. For the students that will complete this course and maybe move on into the next level ensemble, what are the textures? What are the technical demands? What are the harmonic textures and sounds they need to be familiar with? Well, we try to use that as a stretch concert. We're not using the spring concert for mastery, it's for parents. But if we pick a little more advanced rigor and we are going to be comfortable with only meeting at a proficiency level, we can use that as a stretch. And knowing that the intent is not mastery, but at 85% mastery would be great because we're trying to stretch those kids to prepare them for the next ensemble that they might be advancing into. So that gives us an 8-unit structure that's focused on concept and content mastery, that we're doing skill development and sonic precision, what I call the vertical technical skill development, but we're simultaneously infusing concept mastery of the aesthetic elements that creates and enables us to create art. That we're learning that as we go along so that we're not stuck 2 weeks before trying to go trombones, piccolo, woo! We've already able to do that because we've been doing it all year long. And it's not new. We're not adding a different responsibility to the brain to have to relearn and refocus. We're just transferring the skills that we've learned to new literature on a high level of mastery.